Greetings, traveler. I've been expecting you. Please, do enter my homestead. Make yourself at home. My friend, you look exhausted. Weary from battle, I presume? Well, in that case, you've certainly come to the right place. I assure you that I have everything you could possibly desire. By the looks of you, you are certainly strong enough to handle my potions. Have you come to browse my wares? Or are you perhaps here to plunder me? That's a great choice, my friend. You have good taste in music. It's a classic and a banger. Marty Robbins, huh? Shit, the man could sing. Why don't we give it a whirl? I mean, after all, it's your money. I can tell you this much. Marty Robbins manages to produce the most delicate sound. His storytelling is evocative and efficient. It paints a narrative of an idealized vision of America's past. I'd go so far as to say this might be the best music you'll ever hear in your entire life.
To the town of our free rode a stranger one fine day. Hardly spoke to folks around him, didn't have too much to say. No one dared to ask his business, no one dared to make a slip. The stranger there among them had a big iron on his hip, big iron on his hip. It was early in the morning when he rode into the town.
You like that?
He came riding from the south side, slowly looking all around. He's an outlaw, loose and running, came the whisper from each lip. And he's here to do some business with a big iron on his hip, big iron on his hip. In this town there lived an outlaw by the name of Texas Red. Many men had tried to take him, and that many men were dead. He was vicious and a killer, though a youth of 24, and the notches on his pistol numbered 1 in 19 more, 1 in 19 more. Now the stranger started talking, made it plain to folks around. Was an Arizona Ranger, wouldn't be too long in town. He came here to take an outlaw back alive or maybe dead. And he said it didn't matter, he was after Texas Red, after Texas Red. Wasn't long before the story was relayed to Texas Red. But the outlaw didn't worry, men that tried before were dead. 20 men had tried to take him, 20 men had made a slip. 21 would be the Ranger with the big iron on his hip, big iron on his hip. The morning passed so quickly, it was time for them to meet. It was 20 past 11 when they walked out in the street. Folks were watching from the windows, everybody held their breath. They knew this handsome Ranger was about to meet his death, about to meet his death. There was 40 feet between them when they stopped to make their play. And the swiftness of the Ranger is still talked about today. Texas Red had not cleared leather for a bullet fairly ripped, and the Ranger's aim was deadly with the big iron on his hip, big iron on his hip. It was over in a moment and the folks had gathered round. There before them lay the body of the outlaw on the ground. Oh, he might have went on living, but he made one fatal slip when he tried to match the ranger with the big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip. Big iron, big iron. When he tried to match the ranger with the big iron on his hip.
Fallout New Vegas is hands down the best mod loader tutorial in the world, and also a great game. I decided to make a video about it, and now I'm sitting here with 15 terabytes of footage spanning over 60 hours. How in the world am I gonna leverage that into one comprehensive, digestible piece of content? The answer is one step at a time. Instead of completely overwhelming you by trying to unpack everything at once, I've decided I'm gonna introduce you to all the game's concepts as I became aware of them. I think it's more fun that way, and I'm not doing the other thing. Starting with the installation. In 14 hours, I managed to install the game and get it working with about 20 different mods. By all means, a bare bones installation, meeting the bare minimum to even get the game running. And to get you running, seeing as walking the entire Mojave wasteland makes you an entire waste man. Also a few quality of life additions like animations, multi-pixel textures, modern computer effects, and a distinct lack of game-breaking performance issues. The very first thing I did was go back to the drawing board. There's something wrong with the game. And then within a relative time frame, I got the game working. For now. This is your protagonist. I went with my primal instincts on the character creation and made a Hispanic punk rocker. I sacrificed intelligence and perception so I could max out strength and endurance. As for skills, I doubled down on unarmed, melee weapons, and as a wild card also speech, so that I can talk myself out of any situation my fists can't handle. I'm also hot-blooded and schizophrenic. So I tried to punch a robot who immediately shot me with bullets. After falling face first terminal velocity into the concrete learning curve, I took a different approach and punched some cattle, at which point the owner tries to fairly settle the dispute. This interaction bothered me, so I killed him with my bare hands, took his rifle, and went on a bit of a senseless homicide. When I got to Easy Pete, I was introduced to the Vault-Tec assisted targeting system. It's very good. I became vilified in Goodspring and fucking killed everyone in town, including all the main questline NPCs, then started walking in a direction. I'm starting to get the hang of this. As I exit Tutorial Town, I get the last chance to change anything I want about my character. Here's the actual skill spec I'm running. Everything into agility, barter for financial security, sneak, cause I love stealing.
Stop! You violated the law!
And guns. I don't have to explain myself. Wild wasteland trait for all the special encounters, and claustrophobia once more just for the fuck of it. By the way, don't you ever pick claustrophobia. More on that later. Finally, I changed the name to Bossman because I like ad revenue. And on the subject of revenue, the Ducky vinyl figure is now shipping in the real 4-dimensional metaphysical world. To initiate yours, go to the URL and activate it. With money, the shipping's free worldwide. And if you can't afford it, a fair compromise would just be to watch my Fallout video instead. There's a couple things I want you to pay attention to here. Instead of pressing F5 to quick save, I do it manually for the first 40 hours of gameplay to really immerse myself. I also accidentally left the mysterious broadcast on, so it played this horrendous music on loop for 2 fucking hours. After escaping the Psychosis soundtrack, I gathered myself mentally and came upon the NCR Correctional Facility. I avoid detection and jump the fence. This was an intense situation. I didn't know what to expect, and to be honest, I was scared as shit. I carefully sneak up on the guard with the intention to assassinate him, as to not alert the entire facility. I equip the razor blade and go for the stealth kill.
Damn!
I don't know why I thought that would work. Anyways, I managed to take out the powder gangers and make my way inside the facility, where I came upon my first intense combat encounter. I got to experience the absolute adrenaline rush that Fallout combat provides. when ambushed by 5 men with guns and energy weapons. They backed me into a corner and made themselves the path of least resistance. I didn't want to hurt them. They forced my hand in the matter. Fun fact, the grenade launcher is extremely effective at melee range. That is, if you don't mind losing an arm and crippling your torso. Now, if you are a Fallout enthusiast, you may notice that I cut out VATS targeting and a myriad of things that I do on the Pip-Boy, such as using stim packs, healing limbs, switching weapons, and all sorts of general micromanagement. This is purely for cinematic purposes. I'll have you know, you just watched 10 minutes of gameplay in 15 seconds. I loot all their corpses and the entire facility as per the intended gameplay, and exit the building 5 times as powerful as I entered it. This is where Bossman's misadventures took a turn for the worse. I randomly stumbled my way into Quarry Junction, an encampment of Deathclaws, an enemy so vicious that they can one-shot even an endgame courier with power armor. In retrospect, it was actually impressive that I even killed one, but at the time, I felt like this game had a very rough learning curve.
It was early in the morning when he rode into the town.
Can't believe anyone actually made it through from the north, what with all the death claws at the quarry.
Yeah, no shit. The worker told me it's too dangerous to head north. I immediately disregarded his advice, got repeatedly violated by Deathclaws, then after a couple bouts of trial and error, I yet again found a new direction to walk in, and came upon a hidden valley with scorpions and bunkers that, much to my dismay, required a very high lockpicking skill. I knew every lock I couldn't pick would autistically bother me, so from this point on, I immediately started maxing lockpicking. I became a machete warrior. Killed an abomination and started making my way up Black Mountain. When assaulted by invisible mutants, I knew I had come to the wrong place. I ran for my fucking life and decided to actually play other aspects of the game than shoot and run. I made my way to the Followers Outpost and decided to immerse myself in the game's deep dialogue options.
Stay alert.
For every passing second, I get more immersed in this fever dream of a game. Right next to the Followers Outpost is Camp Golf. This was my first run-in with the new California Republic.
Hattie.
Now on the surface, these guys don't seem altogether terrible. They strive to uphold democracy, personal liberty, and the rule of law. But here's the thing. I have a problem with authority, but it's a visceral emotion that I can suppress for the time being. So I decided to accept my first quest.
You're welcome to try, hell.
Unite the misfits and turn them into cold-blooded warriors. At this point, I had the vocabulary of Lil Pump.
I'm a millionaire, but I don't know how to read. Nope.
And the articulation of a 100 Gex song. So I scrapped the original plan of reading them The Art of War and instead resorted to a rigorous, physical, gritty combat training routine.
Hello.
Unfortunately, my explosive skill was inadequate and they nearly killed each other when practicing a simple grenade throw. Seeing as Maggie was entirely unsatisfied with my training, I decided to continue my journey. Inside the house resort, I came upon combat armor, waited till no one saw me, and stole it with no consequences. I immediately equipped it and with the large amount of weight, very slowly walked out of the building completely unnoticed. I really don't know how to play this game, but I keep getting away with it. Although in retrospect, I don't think I could have played the game more incorrectly if I fucking tried. Another 15 hours of gameplay would transpire before it finally clicked for me that there's 2 types of NPCs. Drones that are literally the spearhead of an ideology, all spewing the same 2 voice lines, sorta like people on Twitter. And then there's the ones with a unique name who are indistinguishable from real humans. They'll have up to hundreds of different dialogue options, several quests, and various influences on the world. Here you'll see me stroll right past Arcade Israel Gannon. His companionship alone would make me a military superpower. I'd have triple the inventory space, and his questline leads to hands down the best power armor in the game, so only a fool would disregard him. Invade the Sunset Sarsaparilla headquarters, spend all his ammo on killing robots for no reason, become a machete warrior, and be forced to pawn prized possessions, such as my collection of egg timers, to get a fraction of the ammunition I just spent back. Now, having realized that ammo is a scarce resource, I went into the night, machete in hand, psycho in my bloodstream, and in a state of extreme delirium from the radiation poisoning that I still didn't know was a game mechanic. I stumbled my way into Camp McCarran, legally, preemptively defend myself, and take the public transit to New Vegas, the giant glowing middle of the game that everything points towards. I was so excited. Truth be told, I'd spent over an hour walking around the strip, somehow missing both the north and south entrance. The funny thing is, this loading screen never ended. Yeah. So I fiddled with ModLoader for 40 minutes. Now, New Vegas crashes if I alt-tab, but as with every part of the process, we compromise, and then it just works.
Howdy, partner. Welcome to New Vegas.
I'm greeted by a Securitron who refers me to the Lucky 38, where I'll be able to meet the infamous Mr. House, but not before researching the premises and familiarizing myself with the local culture.
Hey there, friend. A bit of advice. You look like you could use some protection. Lucky for you.
By lucky, he means killing the people inside the casinos, and by protection, he's naturally referring to his selection of ceramic guns and switchblades, of which I needed none. Yet. So I go talk to Mr. House, and he asks me to retrieve a prized possession. Now this is where I begin to unravel the story. So hold on, cause it actually makes a lot of sense. The Platinum Chip, the uttermost plot device of the game, was in your hands and it was your mission to deliver it. This was before the intro cinematic, where Benny shot you in the head.
Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
Twice. You get dug out of a grave in Good Springs because you have damn good cranial genetics. That's where the game begins. Through a series of events determined by the stupidity of the player, I, as the player, now stand before redemption. Opportunity for revenge against the bastard who conned me, but not before pursuing my high-minded ambitions. I lost nearly all my money on the roulette until my last bet, at which point I started winning it all back. Once I was on a roll, the game crashed, and I swore to stray off my hedonistic path. Had I simply abused loading a save, I could have made off like a fucking bandit. But I was deeply committed to playing this game start to finish, with my actions having real consequences. So in Freeside, I found the Silver Rush, the largest retailer of energy weapons in the game. At this point, I decided to abuse save states. It's a technique where you load the game over and over again until you get the desired result. So after dying many times, I loot the Van Graff key and the plasma caster. I then walk right past the Van Graff safe and meticulously, systematically scan every inch of the building for nothing but mere scraps. Then walk right past the safe on my way out. Feeling like I just took them for all they had, I then resume my quest for absolute vengeance. It's time for Benny to die. By process of elimination, the elimination of yours truly, I've arrived at the conclusion that a good strategy would be to steal Benny's sweet key. Now if you think the screen looks weird, it's cause it does. The next half hour of footage is corrupted. You see, the game crashed whilst recording. Great stuff. We could keep it zoomed in, but actually, the black bars are dope cinematic immersion. So anyways, inside Benny's suite, I meet this unimposing, kind fellow named Yes Man.
Hey! Hi there!
Presuming that he's a wacky side character, I started doing everything he told me without hesitation. The first order of command was to disobey Mr. House's orders and instead take the Platinum Chip to a secret underground facility. I didn't question this in the slightest.
Have you come to Nelson seeking your death, profligate?
In my attempt to pickpocket a stranger, I instead have my first encounter with the Legion, Fallout's faithful recreation of the Roman Empire. That is, if they were misogynistic boy-toy twinks that fuck dogs and enslave women. So pretty much the only discernible difference is that these guys have guns. I'm brought before a Rastafari for questioning. I skip his boring ass dialogue and keep going. Ranger Nilo came at me with an interesting proposition. There are NCR hostages held up at the nearby Legion encampment. I could use a few doses of Psycho to juice up a gang of soldiers and go in guns blazing. But why the fuck would I want to save NCR hostages when I can tell Nilo that I sadly only have personal use amounts, shoot the hostages in the head, and still collect my paycheck from the NCR for putting them out of their misery? It was at this point that I began to grasp the fundamentals of the game. It's time for Benny to die. What if I want to take over the world?
Then I'd have to help you.
The plot thickens.
You wear the mark of Caesar. You may continue.
I'll wait.
Well,
Are you ready to head upriver? Caesar strictly forbids the use of chems and alcohol.
can I please have the platinum chip back? I need it.
Oh, I'll give you the platinum chip.
It's that easy. Yet another dub. Feign loyalty and elude you'll do someone's bidding. That's exactly the best point to betray them. So just to recap, we're currently entering a weather station inside Kaiser's Legion encampment. Mr. House is very surprised to see us considering he didn't tell us about this place at all.
I like to think you have enough sense to do the right thing.
But he's reassured that this is not a betrayal. We are simply here to upgrade his Securitron army. With savage hatred, I destroy everything on site, use the platinum chip to upgrade the Securitrons, then destroy the generator so I complete both quests, fuck both my employers, and serve my own best interests. A running theme you'll come to find, much like my stupidity and ignorance. I really have to admit, at this point I had barely any idea what I was doing. I understood a mere percentile of the game, and I was definitely still getting the basics down. Soon it would dawn on me just how much I fucked up. But for now, ignorance was bliss. Having betrayed Mr. House, one of the biggest players in the Mojave, the Lucky 38 is now militarized. At a right level 9, I decide I'm ready to single-handedly take on functionally an armed fortress. With only one leg and my head intact, I hold the gat with my teeth and pull the trigger with my kneecap. Barely clinging on to the mortal realm, I drink one sip of whiskey to numb the pain of a crushed ribcage and immediately become an alcoholic. Alcohol. Not even once. I hack the terminal, open the antechamber, and come across the real Mr. House, a decrepit 261-year-old man in a life support chamber.
Why have you done this? Centuries of preparation. So much good undone.
Why did I undo centuries of good for humanity? 'Cause I don't like you, bitch.
I have nothing to say to you.
All in a day's work. Now all I gotta do is return to Yes Man. I've but a single leg to walk on. No meds, food, or performance-enhancing drugs. And worst of all, there's a great many angry men between Bossman and Benny Sweet. I legged it. I knew I was in bad condition when they shattered my cranium, and just when I thought I'd seen the worst of it, the whiskey withdrawal hits. And to top it off, you'll notice the dirty water I drank is barely keeping my health above null. And just to season that, you must remember that I'm a sack of broken bones and mangled organs, all getting dragged by a single undeterring leg of absolute willpower. Okay, they were too plentiful and too powerful. A real man knows when to set his pride aside and pursue a tactical retreat. I made my way to the fort and continue to parade as an ally of the Legion. For destroying Mr. House, I've become accepted by their people. This gives me access to valuable information like the location of the boomers, and equally relevant, now their medic will actually provide me with healing powder. It doesn't do much. However, it's here at nearly 8 hours of game time, I discover that you can sleep in beds to regenerate all your health and cure sleep deprivation. Absolutely jarring revelation here. Another nugget of wisdom procured by Sweet Talk and Caesar is that in one of the Hidden Valley bunkers hides a fanatical, irregular military force known as the Brotherhood of Steel.
How the hell did you get in here? Normally, I would have already shot you.
They strip me naked and bring me before their elder. I find that we share interests and have common ground to stand on when he asks me to kill an NCR ranger. But before consummating the alliance, I stole a super sledge and badass power armor that I don't have the training to wear. That was the beginning of a massive problem that I'll touch on later. On my way out of the bunker, Paladin Hardin proposes that we overthrow Elder McNamara, a proposition I'll dwell on for the time being. I take out the ranger. Plasmacaster's great. When faced with the news of my victory, McNamara scolds me for not being thorough. I'll remember this. Although he finally removed the explosive collar around my neck. Time to enforce my beliefs. After very slowly taking 15 minutes to exit the bunker, both times I left it, because I have claustrophobia, so I'm not strong enough to carry this power armor around inside. Absolutely smashing. Time to enforce my beliefs. I tried a myriad of different strategies to overcome the casino staff, and no matter what I seemed to throw at them, they tore me to pieces time and time again. I felt as if my efforts were in vain, but I was merely climbing the tall ladder of a learning curve this game has. I was adapting, evolving, and most importantly, overcoming. By that, I naturally mean die 8 times in a row cycling through all my supposed most powerful weapons. Then try equipping the super sledge, mind you without even being melee spec'd, brutally followed through with a massively successful blunt object homicide. Which made me realize that in this game, circumstantially, melee weapons are fundamentally broken. Yes Man is delighted to help me in my righteous crusade to take over the fucking world. We head to the Lucky 38's penthouse suite.
Hi! This is big, huh? A very big moment.
Then proceed to terminate and replace Mr. House's AI with Yes Man, effectively granting us full control over his empire.
Wow!
We upgrade the Securitrons to have shoulder-mounted rocket launchers and begin manufacturing an army. There was even this lovely demonstration. Now, the fucked thing is, right here, I was a couple dialogue checks away from the final battle. By accident, I had completed the entire main storyline. To put it into perspective, I just dinged level 12, and it now dawns on me that I just chose my side in the war. I thought I'd completely fucked it, but on the contrary, this is what's fantastic about New Vegas, and one of the things that make it a true RPG. Progression is non-linear as all fuck, which means you can play it however you desire. And for me, the game didn't end here. In fact, from this point on, it only picked up more momentum. You see, the battle at Hoover Dam is the ending of the game, but it's affected by a bunch of the things you do throughout your playthrough, which factions you side with, and what you do in the world. Now, having the main story out the way, I go back to roaming the Mojave. Now see, I think this is pretty cool. I've blasted through the entire main story progression, yet a handful of cazadors still prove a deathly challenge. On my second attempt, I got through by the skin of my teeth, and you have to realize it wasn't until level 30 that I actually began implementing sleeping in beds to regenerate my health. Now I know what you're going to say. Knowing you, being the interviewer you are, digging in deep all the time, you're gonna say, what effect does that have on my consumables? Well, let me tell you, every waking moment is a constant struggle to scavenge for sunset sarsaparillas and stim packs, which made this next part all the more terrifying. You see, by trekking in a random direction, still not knowing that in the bottom left corner of my screen, my scanner displays nearby locations and enemies. I actually am at this point still visually traversing through the game like a fucking baboon. And by this method, I come across Vault 22. Vault 22 has some of the best atmosphere I've seen in a video game. The overgrown lab with the creepily unnerving sound design would be enough, but when coupled with data logs that fill in bits and pieces of a tragedy, you slowly uncover the unnerving truth. The deeper you go, the more apparent it becomes that the plants took over. This hypothesis is entirely enforced when suddenly you also have to worry about poker-faced zombies hiding in plain sight, blending into the environment like some type of fucking nightmare. I don't like horror games because they don't make me feel horrified. Vault 22 had chills down my spine, and it certainly rekindled my long-lost anxiety. I think the vaults are a prime example of how ingeniously well this RPG is designed. On the first level, there appears to be no enemies. I scavenged through overgrown and mutated labs. This is horror done right in a video game. I'm fucking terrified, purely as a result of the abhorrently fitting sound design and bizarre visual spectacle. Now, if I could repair the elevator, I'd be able to skip a whole lot of trouble. But art imitates life, and much like me, my Fallout character is the type of guy who needs a man around the house. Listen here, okay? I'm too busy min-maxing XP gains with Swift Learner to bother with the downright peasantry that is physical labor. Ugh. What I mean when I say this is a true RPG is that the experience is constantly shaped around your character's traits, past choices, and your playstyle. Nearly every area is worth scavenging, and if you actually come upon notable loot, it may very well become a part of you. This is the Flamer, It runs on something I have 900 of. One thing I don't have anymore is an ongoing Cazador problem. Is this thing on? Alright. To cut a long story short, over a 2-hour period, I scavenged the entire vault, accessed every level, and took care of the egregious infestation. And then I came upon something fascinating, which happens to be one of my favorite things in New Vegas: random wasteland encounters. Envision this: you're a measly mailman, still coming to grips with everything. You don't quite have it all down yet, but you got a spring in your step, a glint in your eye, and your heart on your sleeve. You come upon a man who quite clearly is walking in a straight line towards a woman, gunning her down. And I don't just mean a single bullet or two. He's unloading several magazines unrelentingly, like a fucking Terminator. I assume mission success on pickpocketing him, when unexpectedly, he 180 lasers me, Slav squats, and rips this piece of dialogue.
Did you see that? That crazy bitch just attacked me out of nowhere.
Every area in the game is unique and fleshed out. Your encounters aren't repetitive, the voice acting's fantastic,
Crazy bitch just attacked me out of nowhere.
And I still can't fathom that I didn't fast travel for the first 15 hours of gameplay. But I need to get off this tangent, because hear me out, the game has 4 DLCs, and I've shown you none of them yet. So let's go back to chronological storytelling. After Vault 22, I investigate a crashed satellite at the Mojave Drive-In, which exudes mysterious behavior exactly at midnight. It turned out to be the gate point to Old World Blues. Spoiler alert, I played all the DLC, and this one was my absolute favorite.
They sought to create a new world, fueled by technology. On the night of October 23rd, 2077...
That's how it goes. And you don't need to watch all that shit. Basically, a bunch of scientists live on as robots in this secluded valley performing mad science. It ain't that deep. To be honest, the only relevant thing from the presentation I genuinely care to show you is this voice line.
In the years before the Great War...
And you've heard the whole trailer. But here's the predicament.
Sectors online. This will only sting for a decade.
What did you do with the brain? That was the most important part.
What do you mean, lost it? We are under siege! Mobius!
You will never survive my deadly robo-scorpions, technological terrors, and...
The think tank, the collective geniuses of mankind, have, much like every girl I've ever dated, left me heartless, brainless, and spineless. Not just do I now have to deal with the lasting trauma of non-consensual cyborgification, they also managed to let Dr. Mobius, a mad, evil scientist, steal my brain. I somehow don't need it to play the game, which is actually canon from my experience with New Vegas.
Be warned, intruder! You are in the presence of a mighty think tank of Big Mountain! The collective geniuses of... We... Dr. Klein! A transmission from the Forbidden Zone, coming right at us!
It is I, Dr. Mobius, transmitting from my dome-shaped dome in the Forbidden Zone, a zone that is, yes, forbidden to you!
Let me just say, man, I fucking love the dialogue in this game.
What illogic is this? Keep your filthy penis-tipped feet out of our labs and secrets!
And I love this DLC. It's so straightforward with the player. You're not confused about where to go or what to do. Even though Dr. Klein isn't generally prone to trust lobotomites, he still tasks me to go recover my own brain. Okay. I was gonna do that anyways. I pick up every quest, sell the shit I don't need, buy ammo, and enter Big Mountain.
Intruder!
Then immediately deplete 30 bullets to kill a single enemy, and begin to ponder whether the level suggestion was there for a reason. I wouldn't have long to dwell on it though, as I found myself swarmed with lobotomites. Not my kind, the ones without a sentience chip installed. My only line of defense is abusing the AI pathing, but alas, not every strategy is perfect. My hands were sweating, I felt very pressured, and I have to admit, the rocket launcher at point blank range was a real gamble, a real 50-50. The great thing about Fallout combat is that the reward is most often proportional to the difficulty. If a level 12 player manages to purge a small army of level 15 lobotomites, he righteously earned his proton axe. What made that acquirement so much more rewarding is that later down the line, I would find myself torn to pieces by the aforementioned Robo-Scorpion army. No matter what I do, these things just destroy me. And instead of admitting I couldn't hack it, teleporting out of Big MT, leveling up, getting better gear, and trying again, I think I spent about an hour perfecting my auto-spacing, because landing a hit with a proton axe disables robots, rendering the scorpions unable to use their ranged attack. If executed perfectly, you can take on up to 3 scorpions at a time without taking damage.
Best friend forever.
It is quite fucking astounding how many times I forgot that robo-scorpions blow up after you destroy them. Far too many times have I been crippled when attempting to loot them. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Chronological reversal. What happened after I slayeth the lobotomites? Well, I came upon Higgs Village, meticulously explored the interiors of the various houses, forgot that I came in through a door that looks like a wall, and came upon some weird dog. At the time, I didn't know that this was one of the special wasteland encounters. In fact, I assumed that the extremely overpowered monstrosity was a boss I needed to kill to escape the village. After a hefty waste of my time, I literally just walk out through the front door. I'm not joking, this whole escapade took 40 minutes and at least half of it was fighting the dog or trying to find a way out. I wasn't crisp, my method wasn't streamlined, I wasn't effective, we weren't getting shit done. So it was at this point I began to really use the world map. Oh my god, look, it's quest markers, and you can go there. Which led me to the X8 testing facility. When presented with the moral dilemma of whether or not to splice a robot and a lobotomite, I take one for the team and do what's necessary for science. If you want radical results and you want them fast, you need to be able to take radical action.
I feel different, awake, alive.
Bossman dings 15, finishes maxing lockpicking, and goes back to meeting his new robot friend.
What is this strange new world around me? What does it hold in store for a dreamer such as myself?
Once more, for science.
What? I feel like this has happened before. Yet I feel awake for the first time. What is going on? What is this strange new world around me? What does it hold in store for a dreamer such as myself?
When attempting to chainsaw massacre my fellow man, I discovered that unarmed enemies can loot each other's corpses. I thought my man was just sensibly fleeing, but no, he was reaching for the peace. Now what am I doing here anyways? The X8 institutional tests are a series of grueling tasks and challenges, and before I could complete even the first level, I had to overcome crippling performance issues. Now for whatever reason, throughout this session my FPS consistently dropped to the point of a PowerPoint presentation. I said fuck this shit, turned my computer off and went to bed. When I booted New Vegas the next morning, I was horrified to find that it boots with no audio. Literally 1 frame per second. And worst of all, there was a bit of screen tearing. I found a handful of people with my exact problem online, and in every instance it had to do with their audio drivers. Oftentimes, Realtek audio drivers. I decided to nuke mine. With my level of technological ability, that's a 50-50 on breaking my computer. Luckily, I won that coin flip. Unfortunately, it didn't fix the game. Re-downloading said drivers is a several hour long process, so I decided to just fucking delete half of my audio devices. Now the game runs perfectly. I can no longer use virtual audio cables, but that's par for the course. We compromise, and then it just works. With a stark reminder that the world's real grueling tasks and challenges are not making videos about video games, but rather intense tedium, I undertake the data retrieval tests with a fresh perspective and newfound courage. Oh, for fuck's sake! Now the first level is actually pretty straightforward. You gotta handle a few enemies, just make sure not to have bad RNG and get consecutively knocked down by the cyberdogs, leading to an unsavory demise. After that comes the advanced test, which is exactly the same, but with twice as many cyberdogs. After the advanced test, I face the residential cyberdog test. Knowing that I'm against one tough dog, I use my most efficient battle plan. Mash left click with my strongest melee weapon. I don't know how, and I don't know why, but it just works. From Gabe, I get phenomenal loot. The Valen's Radi Accentuator, a headpiece with health regen and endurance. Also, it's this cool cyber halo. I then dug through Gabe's digging spots to uncover an audio sample of the dog's bark. More concerningly, it also summoned a small army of robo-scorpions. After taking care of business, we transformed the frequency of the dog's bark into an energy wave, which we used to upgrade our gun. Now it can disable force fields. But hold on, it's about to get heavy. To show you just how much content is in this side quest, we're gonna have to jump a little all over the place, so stick with me. We head to the X-13 testing facility, collect a few components, and craft a stealth suit. How do you upgrade it? Absolutely. 4 stealth tests. Avoid the robots, lasers,
too bad,
turrets, proximity mines. Wahoo! And I can't even hate on it. This forced me to properly learn aggro ranges and stealth mechanics. Plus the stealth suit is pretty cool. It auto-injects chemicals. It will, however, get outscaled in no time, and is therefore pure bait. The hidden gem behind coming here is retrieving the kennel key. This is where chronological goes out the fucking window. Bye-bye! Bye-bye, chronological! 6 hours later, I resumed this side quest. Remember when I said every quest was unique and fleshed out? Now we do exactly the same thing again, but it's Night Stalkers. After going through trials and tribulations, the final ending of the questline is, we finish the research, get the DNA Avenger perk. So 10% more damage to Night Stalkers. Absolutely horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. What's astounding is I didn't need to do any of that shit. All you need is the kennel key, take care of a few dogs, and get the schematics for Fido. It's pronounced Fido. Easily the most insane weapon in the entire expansion. Now, have you ever had a dog and thought, man, I wish his body was a machine gun frame? Look no further than the K9000 Cyberdog gun. It rapidly fires 357 Magnum rounds and even has an attached nose to hunt down lobotomites. When upgraded into Fido, you have a fucking powerhouse of a machine gun. Which, mind you, is not a gun you can craft without a gun skill of 75. That's why this is actually me at level 32 in a totally different expansion. But back to Big Mountain. Although the data retrieval was boring filler, I want to give Old World Blues credit. It also has some of the best side content in the entire game. Inside the sink are various utilities and contraptions with damaged personality modules. To repair them, I've searched far and wide for holotapes containing each AI's sentience. Meet the crew.
I am online once again! I am the scourge of all small appliances, and the boogeyman that keeps lesser toasters awake at night!
A megalomaniacal toaster with cannibalistic and terroristic tendencies. You bring him other toasters, and he consumes them to become more powerful.
Not just murder! I tear them apart and render them down to their base components!
Toaster intends to bring modern civilization to ashes. If you choose to be honest and inform him that the end of the world pretty much already happened, he'll slowly start sinking into a deep depression.
Really? Well, fuck! That really puts a damper on the Toaster's mood.
Much more impressively, he's got weapon schematics.
You want some weapon schematics? I can show you some fucking weapon schematics! You want a superheated Saturnite Power Fist? I can hook that shit up!
Until Endgame, the superheated Saturnite Fist is the best pound-for-pound boxing glove on the market. As you can imagine, I had to try really hard not just to add montage music there, but you know, if I do it every time, the whole video will just be really predictable. Who am I kidding? Where the fuck was I? Oh, right. You've got Muggy, who for whatever reason wants coffee mugs.
You! Hey, you! Yeah, you! Got any mugs?
Through a process that's never really explained, he transmutes them into glue and empty syringes, which are then provided to the player with no further instructions. Then you've got light switch number 1 and light switch number 2. This is where I get heretical. You see, I run the lady killer perk, allowing for special, flirtatious dialogue with the opposite gender.
Oh, well, that's very sweet of you. Maybe one of these nights we can discuss theorems.
I conquer light switch number 2 and make her hit me with the mood lighting. Gives me charisma, speech, and a nose for business. I then, of course, immediately thereafter go hook up with light switch number 1. Hit me with the smart lights, get me off that dumb shit.
You've been seeing the other light switch, haven't you? Am I not enough for you anymore?
Exactly. We got a biological research station who's utterly unprofessional when it comes to handling organic matter.
All circuits online, ready to receive your seed.
Very inappropriate. That being said, I couldn't help but get a little excited every time I left and he told me to hurry back with that seed. There's also the most tormented being, the sink.
Oh God, look at you. You're filthy. I suppose you'll want to clean up then?
A bacteriophobic sink, utterly disgusted by filth. That's gotta be the worst job on the planet.
Look out! Communist!
The book shoot.
Blank books encourage the reader not to question, but to blindly and zealously accept what's put in front of him.
He speaks like a dystopian authority, promising to protect citizens from seditious material.
Citizen? That sounds dangerously seditious.
By which he means pre-war books. I could draw parallels between the book shoot and real historical figures, but let's just... There's also a jukebox with the personality of a traditional Deep South blues musician.
Right on, Daddy. Let's spin some groove.
The catch is that he can't play music and is therefore spiraling into dementia. And finally, an autodoc who's failed every operation he's ever attempted, except Bossman's, which was a fluke due to cranial damage. Here's something completely different. I press E 200 times to replenish my health over several minutes. I could hold down the button to heal 30 times faster. I could sleep in a bed to heal instantly. But at 15 hours of gameplay, I just wasn't there yet. I also killed a giant Cazador. That was pretty fucking cool. And whilst we're doing non-chronological jump cuts, skip the whole story, and here's when I finally reached the Forbidden Dome. I faced the X-42, a giant robo-scorpion, who kills me in but a single hit, whilst I barely scratched him with my strongest weapon. After his second dub, I did what any man would have done in my situation. Disagree with the fact that this boss was designed to be fought with a mini-nuke, and instead use extreme intelligence to take a few shots, wait behind a wall for his attack, and repeat. After decimating his creation, I finally stand before Dr. Mobius, who is surprisingly the most rational, grounded character in the game.
Would you care for a mentat?
If you can look past his mentat addiction and psychotic hallucinations, you'll actually come to find a reasonable, level-headed individual.
And does it even want to go back with you? Maybe you should ask it.
He'll allow me to reinsert my brain on the premise that my brain consents to it. With my own mortal flesh, I enter a heated argument.
Well, look who finally dragged themselves in out of the wasteland.
I started reeling it in when I pointed out that hormones really aren't that fun without a body.
I suppose you're right.
And eventually convince my brain with the allure of tactile sensation.
Well, I suppose you've convinced me well enough.
I really love this game. I had to convince my brain to come back inside my head. Unfortunately, the procedure would require Dr. Klein's lab, and I know that if you want radical results and you want them fast, you need to be able to take radical action. So I killed the entire think tank in cold blood. Not because Mobius turned out to be the good guy, but rather because I'm just about ready to be fucking done with this DLC. And also, I'm not doing whatever the fuck it takes to convince them. Reinsert respectively my brain, heart, and spine, then get myself the fuck out of Big Mountain. Let me summarize the important parts of the plot, okay? The Sync gained access to the magnetohydraulics plant and tried to flood the Big Empty in an attempt to scrub the crater clean. Toaster built a fucking blood shrine to itself and continued its psychotic spree. The light switches ended up shagging. The book chute nearly died choking on a paperclip, then adamantly maintained it was a Chinese paperclip, and that the whole thing had been an elaborately orchestrated assassination attempt. Honestly, the main story's stupid. It's everything else that's worthwhile here. Like trying to splice a man and a dog. What would happen? I don't know what I expected. But it's time for the inevitable return of chronological storytelling. Chronological storytelling. When attempting to reach the boomers, I find myself bombarded with heavy ordnance artillery. It really is quite an unsafe path one must walk to reach them. On my fourth attempt, I made it through with both my neck and legs broken and but a sliver of health.
Hold it right there. Don't you move. How the hell did you survive that bombardment?
I got a sprint mod.
But I had you zeroed in the whole time. Nobody's that fast.
What can I say? With ModLoader, anything is possible.
And that is our story so far. For this last image is our future. To restore the bomber, to fly the open skies in armored safety, raining high explosive ordnance upon ignorant savages. This is our destiny.
I was surprised to find that the name Boomers refers to their proclivity for explosives. I could certainly find a use for them in the war, but it's an endeavor I'll have to pursue later. You see, I'm starting to formulate a master plan. For now, I pick up the fast travel location and head to Black Mountain. You see, there's a whole lot of invisible super mutants who once got the best of me. That's the problem. You see, I don't forget, and I don't forgive. Having spent a good 15 hours chopping down robo-scorpions and shooting lobotomites, I am at this point starving for enemies to christen my bullets on. And against this encampment of presumably innocent mutants, I continue to preemptively defend myself to my utmost ability. I don't pull my punches. I don't fucking stutter. With streamlined efficiency, I execute this homicide to a point of absolute perfection. And because this game is fucking incredible, I'm proportionally rewarded for my efforts. Now don't go thinking this last enemy was an oversight. I'm telling you, this operation's calculated. That's the obligatory money shot. I then pursue alliances with, respectively, the White Glove Society, a group of freak cannibalists, the Great Khans, a tribe of Mongol warriors, and the Umertas, who run the Gamora Casino, where you can buy experiences of the flesh, and pretty much every other faction that Yes Man would homicide if I didn't vouch for them. Now, you might think these are some shady folks to get in bed with, but it's all part of a greater vision. It'll all come together nicely in the future. Possibly the far, far future. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Right now is the time to ascend from a frail postboy to an unstoppable male man. It's time to pursue power armor training. Now here's the thing. I have to be accepted by the Legion of Steel. That would require me to go fix a filtration system for McNamara. Pretty simple. But you have to understand, he scolded me that one time, and he really shouldn't have fucking crossed me. That's why I'm in the Repcon HQ, not to retrieve spare parts for the filtration system, but to loot power armor from a fallen Legion of Steel soldier. I also come across the Q-35 Matter Modulator, thus far my best energy weapon. Notice this, right? Nearly every lock in the game is inside. I have a maxed lockpicking skill of 100, except when I'm inside, where it's 95 due to the aforementioned claustrophobia. But that's beside the point. I was gonna oust Elder McNamara and install a new leader. An understanding leader. A leader that sees my vision. A leader who will enact my influence on the world. A man by the name of Edgar Hardin. To condemn the Elder, we need evidence. So I apply as a computer technician and fix the virus on their network.
You actually did it!
Then I saw a very easy locked terminal. My hacking skills are unreal in this game. With no hesitation, I click the first word the cursor lands on and get in. Intelligence is what I found in the system. Wisdom is knowing not to hack it in clear view of a high-ranking paladin of the Brotherhood.
Over here!
I then get high-level security clearance from Hardin and access information about the chain that binds, the most sacred carnal laws the Brotherhood followed. One such law is that an acting leader can't bestow new orders to soldiers without informing their second-in-command. The holotapes I returned from the slain soldiers proves McNamara guilty.
This is exactly what I've been looking for.
With my help, Hardin stabs him in the back, and with my body rising to power, I instantaneously become accepted by his people. Well, all but one of his people.
Ah, outsider. I've heard that you were instrumental in providing Hardin with the evidence to bring against me.
Whatever. You gotta dethrone a few militia leaders to make a super soldier.
Now, what can I do for you?
I want to join the Brotherhood.
Yes, I thought you might.
Dub. To truly become a paladin of the Brotherhood, Hardin gives me a mission to prove my loyalty. Remember the Van Graffs? I stole their plasma caster a while ago. Well, I've been tasked to kill each and every one of them, and seeing as I had yet to become a capable marksman, I figured I'd adhere to the meta. Seriously, if a bunch of enemies are exiting a building, the most effective course of action is beyond any reasonable doubt to just spam punch with a power glove. It's hefty, powerful, exciting gameplay. After completing my initiation, Hardin makes me a
paladin of the Brotherhood
and provides me with complimentary power armor training.
There, I think you got the hang of it now.
But I'm not done. You see, the armor I stole is mediocre, and I somehow accidentally stashed the chest piece somewhere, so I deemed it appropriate to take the Brotherhood for all they had, seeing as they were no longer useful to me. This is why we went dummy hard on pickpocketing. Whilst literally maintaining eye contact, I snatched the Hidden Valley Depot key, maneuver my way through the lower bunkers, and hidden in plain sight, I become the proud owner of military-grade power armor. Then I stole everything else in the armory, and sold it all back to make the Brotherhood penniless.
Another satisfied customer.
I'm really starting to grasp Fallout economics, or so I thought. But in retrospect, here's how you actually play the game. When I became a paladin, they gave me a full suit of their armor for free. I didn't notice that. I also wasn't aware of repair costs. One full repair of my armor runs me a staggering 10,000 caps, which is slightly more than I earned selling the Brotherhood? I can't fucking speak, man. Which is slightly more than I earned selling the Brotherhood their own entire armory. A competent Fallout player would have known to actively combine duplicate armor and weapons, as it's infinitely more cost efficient than paying for repairs. Bossman, however, is not competent. In the future, his weapons would go on to sporadically break in the middle of combat. If you're wondering about the actual politics of the Brotherhood outside of, I have a problem with authority, basically, their entire society is divided by the lockdown.
It's a travesty is what it is.
This game's from 2010, it's really ahead of its time, but I'm not big on real-life references. You know, it really breaks the fourth wall. I wouldn't want to ruin the viewer's immersion. However, in the video game, my good friend Hardin is anti-lockdown and corn-fed as they come.
Welcome back, my friend. What can I do for you?
A man who's not afraid to make a tough choice. A man who can act on instinct. The literal first thing he does as Elder is lift the lockdown, open the borders, and begin to re-establish the Brotherhood as a military presence in the Mojave. But that's enough lore for now. We'll return to these guys later once we get Best Girl as Companion. But for now, I decided to switch it up and pursue some side quests that weren't necessarily faction related. One such quest was gathering a selection of talent for a show at the Tops. When talking to a lonesome drifter, it struck me just how deep you can read between the lines in New Vegas dialogue. He mentions that he's from Montana, and for some reason I get to hit him with, "Wait, you're not 17, are you?"
"No, sir. I'm 28. Why?"
At first, I presumed this meant he was secretly a woman and I was hitting on her, but it's actually just suggesting that Bossman might have been this guy's father due to ludicrous, unprotected activity of the flesh 17 years ago. So not just have I insulted this 28-year-old man by insinuating I'm his fucking father, I now also convince him to pay me for getting him a gig.
I suppose it's only right you get a little something for your troubles.
What I got in return is a conundrum of a weapon, the mysterious Magnum. Technically, this is like unfathomably stronger than any other weapon I have. It doesn't even come close. Sadly, it plays this tune whenever you holster or unholster it. With my sprint mod, that renders the mysterious Magnum borderline unplayable. But that's enough of this tangent. Other than the lonesome drifter, I also coerced Bruce to be our singer.
Oh, please don't kill me.
Billy to be the comedian.
Last night, some girl was pounding on my door all night. Finally, I had to let her out. What? I take my wife everywhere. But somehow she keeps finding her way back. I did it! I've been in love with the same woman for 17 years. If my wife ever finds out, she'll kill me. No!
And Hadrian to be the mandatory ghoul comedian. No act is complete without one. After going far and wide, I finally returned to the Aces Theater to collect my paycheck, much to my dismay. It happens to be smack in the middle of the casino where I executed a massively successful blunt object homicide. And as a result, everyone here hates my guts and tries to kill me on sight. I suck it up and smoke through it, kill everyone in cold blood and said fuck this escapade, let me do some real shit. I did a lane switch of monumental proportions when I started working with the Boomers. Now, for them to truly involve me in their secret plan for the war, I first had to become an ally. The first mission I undertook was taking care of a bug problem, which I consider an outstanding opportunity to rave on about the non-linear game design. Oh, non-linear. Fuck yes. You could just go in there, waste a hefty load of bullets on trash-level ants and be on your merry way. But a much more rewarding way to experience New Vegas is to actually pay attention to the dialogue. Seek out Loyal and question him about the sonic emitter. Pass either a speech or science check of 50 and it's mine free of charge.
Hot
Damn, you're right.
Now why the hell would I kill these ants one by one when I can damn near T-pose on these bitches whilst every mutated bug in a mile radius gets obliterated in a fucking instance? I not just feel an utter sense of satisfaction, but also damn near any percent speedrun the Bug Stomper challenge. And that's right! Completing challenges unlocks perks. Fuck yeah! I'm not fucking around! How did I live 24 fucking years without discovering world-driven single-player RPGs? Ah! Sorry, I gotta collect myself. Have some bearing. Speak with a bit of reverence here. It's not time to pop off yet. We'll get there.
I see the power's back on. The ants are all dead?
Damn fucking straight! Dub, but accepted is not enough, as you'll be able to see on this rep alignment chart. Beyond accepted lies liked and idolized. If you've done something to bother affection, they might even embody various other perceptions of you, my favorite of which being wild child. Your wild, seemingly capricious behavior leaves people scratching their heads in confusion and avoiding close contact. It's impossible to become idolized by every faction. You're gonna have to compromise eventually. Luckily, I hadn't stepped on anyone's toes around these parts. So to bridge the gap and become an ally of the boomers, I needed to become idolized. So I make myself useful around Nellis. For example, there was a handful of gravely wounded boomers in need of immediate medical attention. So I lied to the doctor.
Well, I don't know actually.
And performed the procedure without the suggested medicine skill.
Hold it right there. You had no business treating that man. You may have spared him a lingering death, but that's straight out malpractice.
Alright, fair play. You can't win them all. I was then tasked to repair some satellite arrays at Helios 1. At the facility, I encountered Fantastic.
Hey man. Who the hell are you? They bring you in to replace me? They're replacing me, aren't they?
Once again, I blindly humor all the wacky side characters I find. What I at the time had yet to comprehend was that he gave me a quest that leads to the uttermost ultimate endgame weapon. You see, in New Vegas, an endgame weapon isn't a gun. It's the force of an entire fully charged solar array. Enough energy to power a city for a week, triangulating your foes for an orbital laser bombardment by a fucking ion cannon in space. But all in due time. I had not the necessary repair skill to fix the panels, but luckily there's hidden secondary stat checks. Due to my finesse for science, I use my knowledge of photovoltaic cells to provide a jank solution, but that's what they get. I'm not exactly paid by the hour. Once I became liked by pretty much everyone but one soldier, Loyal finally let me in on their crazy boomer conspiracy theory. These wacky nutjobs actually believe that by generating ballistic movement through an aerodynamic lift with propulsive thrust, you could aerostatically induce flight in a metal tube. They call this mythos an airplane. So I swim to the bottom of Lake Mead, deploy the ballasts under the wings, get to a safe distance, and marvel in awe as the game actually features a lake surface plane float animation. Shit's crazy. The world is surprisingly animated for a 10-year-old game. Afterwards in the hangar, you can even see the boomers working on restoring the bomber, which signifies that we've advanced our progress to my desirable result, their unfaltering loyalty. Considering they're cooking up the only functional explosive ordnance aircraft in the world, that brings Bossman one step closer to equilibrium. And then what happened is that, chronologically speaking, right in the middle of everything I just showed you, I extensively explored Vault 34. It's a point of failure actually, because Vault 34 is much like this video, very toxic. It's here 23 hours in that I have no choice but to familiarize myself with the radiation mechanic, my ignorance of which I'm sure at least a couple nimble Fallout players have compulsively obsessed over throughout this video. Hello? Here's the tea. You gotta cure your radiation poisoning completely by going to a doctor and paying minimum wage for what used to take me about 10 to 15 radaways.
Okay. And remember, if this doesn't help, try taking a bath in tomato juice.
Then you pay attention to how much radiation you're basking in and appropriately use Rad-X. Taking Rad-X is cool, man. It's rad. If you do it 20 times, it makes you radical. By the way, Dr. Strauss is an entirely incompetent doctor. She's the only one I ever came across who peddles both addictive chems and medical supplies. That's an impressive dealer. She's the problem and the solution.
Another satisfied customer.
Her dialogue strongly suggests that she has a proclivity for getting high on her own supply. And then after putting herself on edge, she uses medicine to take the edge off. All of this is funded by taking advantage of the sickest, weakest members of society. Based. She would have presumably continued her double boy toy rodeo flesh crusade had I not gunned her down in the street like the degenerate she is. But that's besides the point. Now I think this is Fallout at its best. I'm constantly scavenging for ammo and more radaways so I can explore deeper. This game really shines when approaching an intense combat encounter with limited resources, because it forces you to think and learn the game. No doubt, a very stressful, high-octane situation, which you'll be forced to experience dozens of times, whilst hopefully learning, adapting, and evolving. There's nothing better than being backed into a corner like a wild fucking animal, cause it leaves you without a choice. They just made themselves the path of least resistance. Mind you, that was only the first floor. In certain scenarios, it's not optimal to use assisted targeting. Whoa. Diverse gameplay. I enter the control room, get the jump scare of my fucking life, and come upon a big red button. Without hesitation, I immediately press it, causing a meltdown, irreversibly shutting off the vault's reactor. Apparently, this helps the NCR with their crop growth. I have no idea how any of this works, and I don't care. Not even a little bit. You see, I'm not exactly here for diplomatic reasons. At this point, Bossman has evolved past diplomacy into a fanatical, irregular military superpower. When such an entity engages in a slaughterous crusade, he is indeed motivated by the journey. But make no mistake, what drives him is the destination. For the ring is where a champion takes his belt, but the gym, the armory, is where he wins it. Enough ammunition to arm an indigenous population. And even if, circumstantially, I may not have an indigenous population on hand, I can sure as hell make do with a sniper rifle, combat shotgun, and most importantly, a missile launcher that in stark contrast to my rocket launcher, does much more damage than early game PP handguns. Now, I've shown you guns, and I've shown you ghouls, but I'd also like to take a moment to explain why the guns and ghouls around these parts are so plentiful. And to do that, we have to take a step back. You see, it's a common misconception that what destroyed the world was a nuclear Armageddon. On a purely physical level, I'll concede, technically true. However, nuclear war was not the cause, but rather the effect, the end destination of a dark and sinister path which led humanity astray. I'm of course talking about the catalyst, social experiments, and technology. You see, it wasn't just Vault 22. All of them were deranged, inhumane experiments in one way or another, and it's one of the things I love about this game. In this one, they decided to overstock the vault with weapons, which gave it a distinct, gun-focused culture. They then coupled said culture with democratic capitalism. They favored recreational facilities over the cost of living space, yet had no laws in place to restrict rampant overpopulation. With all this in mind, I have to say, it's an absolute mystery how by the year 2281, feral ghouls with some level of intelligence made up the vast majority of the population. But enough about the United States of America. Let's talk more about Fallout. I got a singular closing statement for Vault 34, and you can consider it a public service announcement. If you ever smell burnt toast in an enclosed space, you're gonna want to momentarily hold off on firing any ignition-based weaponry, because on the off chance that you're not having a stroke or making breakfast, it could be such that you're standing smack in the middle of a highly flammable hydrogen gas leak. If you were to exude kinetic energy, it would exponentially turn into much more kinetic energy. I went to the Hidden Valley and got infected with entheogenic scorpion venom. Right as I began to execute my counterattack, the poison reached my central nervous system, which caused a slight disturbance in my field of vision. Then I came into an altercation with two wild coyotes, which concluded when I made a compromise. I sacrificed 2 whole bullets out of my inventory, after which I focused intensely, for I knew the path before me was linear. I had a road to walk. A lonesome road. And just like that, the atmosphere and intrigue reels me back in to a point where I completed this entire DLC in one sitting. After playing all night and morning, I got a call from my chiropractor informing me that I would indeed be paying for my treatment, even if I was not there to receive it. Another hefty price I paid was one of willful ignorance. I could have just googled some shit, but instead I played for 27 hours before finally being spoon-fed my first companion. Cool introduction, except you'll be hearing that every time you enter combat. The moment he swore loyalty, I immediately stock 90% of what I'm carrying onto my new best friend, then sporadically pick up everything I come into contact with. A behavioral pattern I would continue, right until the part where Eddie dumps all my items on the floor and fucks off for no reason, leaving me, a player that hates inventory management, with the ultimate compromise. I was getting lonely at this point, man. There's 2 fucking characters in this whole expansion. Eddie, my alleged companion who just buggered off in my moment of need, and Ulysses, an incredible antagonist with quite possibly the best damn voice actor in the game.
Blame you? No. Learned from you. Both the weapon to kill a nation and the strength to do it. You showed me a road, a way to carry my message. You've already answered for what you've done. Now the flag you follow will answer for it.
Guess what? You get to hear him make vague statements over a walkie-talkie like pretty much until the very ending. This is where the hardcore Fallout fandom and I part ways, cause I'm about to start criticizing Lonesome Road. Look, there's only one of the DLCs I didn't like. I'm not gonna tell you which one, but it's dead money. So if it's dead money, that means I liked Lonesome Road. In fact, I liked it so much that I felt the need to provide constructive criticism. The game design reeks of questionable decision making and panders heavily to the weak gamer. A lack of non-linear exploration would work great if they didn't force you through shit sections. For example, there's this long stretch with a ton of death claws that could have been an incredibly challenging section to get past. If I, as the player, had not been provided with a flare gun that permanently stun-locks abominations, you took one of the scariest enemies and reduced them to a 3-minute standing still session. This is just not fun gameplay. So I tried the section without the flare gun, which reminded me of what it's like to go through a completely regular death in Fallout. Now why did I say all that shit? Because no matter how hard I tried, those were the only things I could find flaw in. What this expansion might lack in exploration, characters, and side content, it more than makes up for in loot, story, atmosphere, and rooftop sniper combat. So anyways, here's what happened in words in case you missed anything. I arrive at a desolate canyon, enter a silo and make a robot friend. Force him to commit roboticide against his fellow machine. Talk to Ulysses, then make my way through Hopeville Missile Base. This is where rooftop sniper combat ensues. I come upon the Red Glare, not just any ballistic missile launcher, but hands down the best RPG of all time. For cinematic shots that happens to have unfathomably underwhelming stats. More relevantly, right next to it, the detonator. Did I mention there's a great handful active nuclear warheads scattered around the divide, and that the core premise is to detonate them, causing a thermonuclear explosion? I enter a house, a man swings an axe at a bed, then we come to this tinted section, and continue to linearly progress in a straight line through the content. Boom, what up? Tunnel full of hulking tunnelers. Get knocked over a couple times before finally reaching the high road. Even the most linear sections of New Vegas give you a choice. You can engage in high altitude ballistic fisticuffs, but if you were to just for a moment use your fucking brain in combination with your retina to process visual information through the fucking miracle of light, then and only then would you finally understand that your problem has a much simpler solution. That's what this game teaches you. Find the best solution, then do all the other shit too just cause you can. Anyways, I sell some shit to a computer, make it past the death clause, and accidentally stumble my way into one of the two major decisions of incredible significance. There's an entire armed nuclear rocket devised to cause mass devastation, primed to be launched if one irresponsible person came upon this tiny red lever. I'll be needing more rataways. Fortunately, a ton of people just gave up all their possessions because they died from radiation poisoning. We're glossing over a lot of stuff fast, but let's just take a moment to appreciate this cool ass elevator sequence. The visuals and sound design really stand out to me here. I don't feel like I'm playing a 10-year-old game. Boom, now we're underground. Tilted house staircase combat. Made it back outside, which means dialogue. Lots of dialogue. Specifically, a hostile conversation about my righteous decision to take action. At this point in the expansion, you're an absolute power bottom. You've been engaging in high altitude combat from the ground, knowing full well that it's a matter of time before the game devs let you do it from the high ground. Shoot a rocket through a streamlined trajectory, easily disposing of my foe, the corpse of whom I loot for the heavy incinerator, presumably the long overdue solution to my tunneler problem, a hypothesis which I miserably failed at elevating into a theory. Eddie leaves. Fuck! Atmosphere, 10 out of 10. Difficulty, appropriate. Core premise, bellissimo. What happened next? Death claws. Lots of death claws. Then I got stuck in the game design. Twice. Oh shit, here's a throwback. And there's that shot from an hour ago when I talked about the first DLC. Look, it's Fido. It's pronounced Fido. And finally, I enter Ulysses' temple for the final encounter. Now let me briefly touch on the story. Ulysses is a courier who trusted Caesar's legion. Unfortunately for him, their standard procedure was to put his people in the history books. After losing everything, he found a new home, which was destroyed by the player. Yes, you did this. Chronologically speaking, before you started playing, Bossman delivered a package for the NCR, which turned out to be the launch codes for a great handful underground atomic bombs that blew up everything and everyone who constituted an ordinary world for Ulysses, causing him to design his entire existence around walking in your footsteps. He's essentially the player if everything went wrong. This is where New Vegas succeeds. The very divide you traverse through was caused by you. The antagonist, molded by what you did to him. Everything that has transpired, is occurring, or could possibly happen, is all an intricately designed experience that shapes around you. A true RPG. And on the subject of gameplay reflecting the player's ideology, Ulysses' encounter happens to be the major decision of utmost incredible significance. That's why I'm flaunting the US Army General's outfit, as it gives a +10 to speech, along with a bit of seditious reading material that bumps our speech up to 100, allowing for my desired outcome. Did I spend 5 hours leveling just to do this? Yes, and it's worth it every time. Ulysses has 2 giant nukes pointed at respectively the Legion and NCR. If I don't intervene, he will follow through with launching one of them. This would guarantee at least tens of thousands of civilian casualties. The moment I found out, I immediately knew I had to stop this lunatic. Within me resides a strong moral compass, and there's no way I could sit idly by whilst watching this man only realize half his potential when there's 2 pests at large. An imperialistic, totalitarian dictatorship that enslaves women. And even worse, a Californian Democratic Republic. There's only one outcome I'd be willing to accept on my save file. We stand our ground side by side, courier by courier, bonding over our shared love for relentlessly slaughtering ghoulified authorities. Not just does that skip the most tedious boss fight, the game now also delivers what YouTube never quite could. Freedom of expression. And that's pretty much all of Lonesome Road. Except for, oh yeah, the coolest fucking part.
War never changes. Men do. Through the roads they walk. And this road has reached its end.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that. That's pretty fucking cool. I launched nukes from the expansion into the Mojave, functionally disintegrating the core gameplay to make space for more content. 2 new zones permanently added to the main game world, and I still got tricks up my sleeve. Remember those 5 hours I spent leveling? In said time frame, I also domesticated Arcade Ganon. This is absolutely a fucking huge, monumental dub, because followers in New Vegas aren't like a pet or a helping hand. They're unrelenting, primal savages who will soak a solid 50 bullets to the cranium, have 1 quick nap for serotonin, and be back on their feet within a minute. If you're playing hardcore, they exude permadeath, which is but one of the multitudinous reasons why I don't intend to play it. To name a few, Stimpaks and Rataways now apply over time. Ammunition has weight, sleeping doesn't heal you, limb regeneration is very limited. You gotta stay hydrated, eat periodically, and have a regular sleep cycle. Oh my god, it's just like real life. Now while I have you right here in a segment outside of chronological progression, let's go over chems, particularly my favorite chems. What if I told you that all you need is a science skill of 50, a campfire, a Nuka-Cola, 1 dose of prescription jet, and a box of detergent to make 1 singular recreational dose of Rocket, a powerful hallucinogenic methamphetamine that stimulates the central nervous system, triggering a rush of energy and strength. The endorphinic rush, an altered state of consciousness, has been known to induce an absolutely irregular behavioral pattern. Steady is a combat drug made from unknown chemicals. It improves your aim drastically to the point where you can hit a man right between the eyes from max render distance with a rocket launcher. Or how about close combat, but it's with a shotgun that laser hit scans every bullet straight to the dome. But why fight fairly when you can bring a gun to a fist fight? Disarm your opponents by shooting their weapons out of their hands.
You like that?
Very satisfying, but not nearly as satisfying as shooting your opponent's explosives out of the air. Once you grow competent, you gotta combine these elements. Jump off a rooftop with a sniper rifle. Trick shot the first guy's rifle to show them you mean business. Then use our second prospect's incendiary grenade to prove that I can in fact disarm 2 people at the same time whilst dual wielding 2 definitions of the word disarm. Psycho is a little bit like YouTube gaming videos. Its primary effect is a dampening of the higher brain functions, which furthermore induces full-blown military-grade psychosis. Strangely enough, long-term effects include dementia, elevated levels of aggression, general agitation, and internal organ damage. Buff out is a great solution if your problem is that you're a closeted claustrophobic who intends to dodge inventory management at all costs and still move at a reasonable pace inside. Med-X is literally morphine. Hydra will restore your limbs like Piccolo, but across time and very painfully. If not used in moderation, you may very well experience dilated pupils, an increase in heart rate and blood pressure, excessive sweating, and other typical symptoms of procrastination. Fixer is supposed to temporarily remove addiction. Due to a bug, it's very overpowered, because it works permanently. And in all my time with this game, I don't think I ever used it. From Bossman's first addiction, I played with a stern, gotta catch them all philosophy. To my knowledge, with zero consequences. Oh yeah, and one of the coolest chems, I somehow glossed over and didn't think to try once for my first entire fucking playthrough. Turbo. By inhaling hairspray, you slow down time like an anime character. And God, I wish I knew about this from the beginning. It appears to literally be a can of hairspray duct taped to a jet inhaler. There's no instruction manual, only 2 simultaneous aerosolized methods of delivery. Depending on which organic holes you'd be comfortable with, there's a wide range of hypothetical methods one could apply when ingesting Turbo. You can probably tell that getting a product on the market in Fallout doesn't exactly require extensive medical testing. Luckily, I don't need to know why it works, only that it works and how it works. You see, with the right trait, appropriate perks, and correct usage, it has a duration of 6.8 seconds. When your brain is supercharged to process information 3 times faster, you experience subjective reality 3 times slower, allowing you to act efficiently and sporadically, which circumstantially makes 6.8 seconds a powerful and exponentially potential time frame. And on that note, the mini nuke, just like any other nuclear warhead, but shoulder mounted. Here's where I put the foot down though. That is enough extreme super weapons and slow motion genocide for now. Oh shit, I don't have all year, so here's what happened. As you might recall, the Dry Wells, a thriving Legion camp, abruptly got an immediate redecoration. A hefty do-over. It's ripe for the picking with ghoulified Legion Centurions, and I guess now this place really lives up to its name. Of all the wells I've ever seen, these are no doubt the driest. And the Long 15, previously the pre-war Interstate 15, an NCR military base. Now, just the Long 15, a highly irradiated, intensely mutated, loot-filled nuclear blowout. A tragedy of the maximum scale. It's at this very juncture that I, as the player, am reminded of how this game's difficulty scales adequately. There's enemies here, enemies that can tear me apart in seconds. And because they're irradiated mutants standing in radiation, I catch these motherfuckers healing to full in some weird squat when I seize fire. But I have one thing they don't have. A computer-controlled, laser-hit scan AI with a regular plasma pistol that just so happens to be coated with the malice of a primal fucking psychopath. I yet again make off like a bandit. 4 mini nukes, a grenade machine gun, and the Scorched Sierra power armor. Thus far, the strongest, but at any level of progression, imperatively the coolest looking armor in the game. Objectively. I also collect incredible amounts of much needed ammunition, but actually, I didn't need ammunition at all. As I would soon come to find at over 30 hours of game time. There's different types of ammunition, and I've been sparsely using all the worst bullets, not knowing that if I pressed 2, I could have cycled through all my thousands of much more powerful, extremely much more useful ammunition types. Listen, bullets just work better if they penetrate armor. Energy cells just happen to be much more reliant when you overcharge them. What's a rocket really when measured in comparison with a rocket cluster? Or a highly explosive rocket. I don't even know what hollow point means. I just know that if you shoot unarmored enemies with it, you actually win the altercation every time by a fucking landslide. It's also the only effective cure I've ever found to cazadors exuding signs of life. And let me tell you, once you've fired a good handful incendiary grenades, you're not gonna want to fire regular grenades ever again. I am sort of happy to find that Bossman is carrying enough juice for the rest of the game 3 times over, but I do ponder how I could have played these 30 hours differently.
I need to talk to you about something, if you have a minute.
I wouldn't have long to dwell on it though, as I was about to experience endgame companion progression. Earlier, an hour and a half ago, I said Ganon has a questline that leads to the best power armor. Now is exactly when I had enough brownie points for his storyline to trigger. Ganon inquires for Bossman's help in gathering and convincing his old Enclave buddies for aid in the battle at Hoover Dam. Starting with Daisy Whitman, the easiest of the bunch to convince.
Well, it's been a while since I've had my hands on the controls of a vertibird. There's a chance I could crash us in the middle of Lake Mead. But if I get one more chance to fly, count me in.
Then I ventured to Cannibal Johnson's cave, and I'm starting to notice how fucking bizarre some of the interactions are. Ganon is right next to me. He's my follower. Yet in some weird social construct, I'm inquiring on his behalf. And it's not just me, even Johnson comments on it.
Thought I recognized the fellow with you.
Here is where the game effectively simulates social anxiety. In the midst of conversating diplomatically, Ganon feels the need to talk shit and proceeds to badmouth Johnson right in front of him.
If I had to pick anyone who didn't belong in the Enclave, it would definitely be Johnson. He hated what the Enclave was doing. Day to day, week to week, he would question orders, subvert mission objectives, do anything he could to serve without serving. It's amazing he was never court-martialed.
Just fucking keeps going, man. Either way,
you can count me in.
I convince the old timer and move on to Orion Marino.
Looks like I forgot to lock the doors again. If you're with the NCR, get out. This place is mine, and I'm not leaving.
He's known to be potent with a Gatling laser, but competent as he is, we still have an entirely ideological problem on our hands. You see, what he would love to do is to incinerate NCR soldiers and go out in a blaze of glory. I actually agree. That sounds like a great idea. But I know that restraint is a necessity. If you wish to enact a greater vision, you have to put your ideology aside. Since we are fighting with the NCR at Hoover Dam, I simply wait with telling him about the plan.
Oh, I'll come.
Genius. Next up, Judah Krieger.
You don't strike me as someone down on their luck. What brings you to West Side?
I'm recruiting you for the war on behalf of this guy next to me, who's like someone's son or whatever.
Hello, Arcade. Making some new friends, are you? Why the need for a bunch of old war horses like us? Swooping in on a vertibird, guns blazing? Haven't done that in years, but all right, I'm in.
A max speech for a reason. So fucking free, dude. Finally, I sought out the final 5th Enclave remnant, who resides in Jacobstown, a small alpine community in the mountains which functions as a refuge for super mutants and schizophrenic nightkin. We're here to meet Dr. Henry, in stark contrast to Dr. Strauss, an incredibly competent doctor.
I assume this is about something important? You're interrupting my research.
The only one in all the wasteland that has the technical finesse to install a new brain in a dog. A very busy man. He'll attend the Enclave reunion on the premise that I help him finish his research. For that, I must investigate a cave with mysterious mutated invisible night stalkers. I also get the option to replace Ganon with Lily.
Jimmy! Little Jimmy! My, how you're grown up! So good of you to come visit your grandma. Talk to you soon, dear.
Yeah, I'm good, man. You're all right. I'll stick with Ganon. So I siege the day and plunder the cave, dispose of the Night Stalkers, and come upon a chewed-up cloaking device. This holds all the answers. But before I could make it out the cave, I accidentally took a wrong turn and came upon a mysterious locked door. With a bit of tech-savvy handiwork, I finesse my way into what appears to be some dude's secret man cave. I come upon an audio recording, sort of a captain's log if you will.
That's every man for himself now. These supplies are for me and nobody else. There's a woman and her daughter up in one of the rooms of the lodge. Might go pay him a visit tomorrow. The man's got needs.
Okay. Alright. On my way back to Jacobstown, we run into trouble.
Got a problem. Could use your help. Been having trouble with NCR mercs harassing the town, and they just showed up again.
Our business is with the muties, not you.
Did he say muties? I should gun this man down where he stands for uttering mutantophobic heresy right in front of me. It's his luck that I don't intend to make an enemy of the NCR. Yet.
I've always known when to fight and when to back down, and it seems to me I ought to back down this time. My men and I are leaving. You won't see us around here again.
With this conflict steadily resolved, I pickpocket the man to find a note with orders to instigate, agitate, and pressure the mutants to a point where they would lash out first, which would give the NCR military grounds to slaughter this whole entire innocent village. On second thought, I do have sort of a diplomatic immunity, and who am I really to judge this man? My due diligence is to kill them all. Let God sort them out.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars, and let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me.
I return to Dr. Henry, and he concludes that the only way to combat the schizophrenic states that a lot of these mutants have ascended to after abusing cloaking devices to get high off the stealth frequency is to double down and try juicing up Lily with an even more powerful Stealth Boy Mark II.
Of course, dearie. I know it's dangerous, but it'll all turn out for the best. You'll see. I'll go to him now. It would be rude to keep him waiting.
Ah yes, I actually preemptively had to reprogram the game to keep up with the NPC escort speed. I'm extremely satisfied with my experience.
All right, power on the stealth boy, Lily.
Turning it on. Feels strange. Strange but good.
The reading says gamma wave activity is 0, but that can't possibly be right. Gamma wave activity is 0. That can't be right. Must be a result of the interference.
All right, we're done here. Go ahead and power the stealth boy down, Lily.
Oh, I liked having it on.
I'll get back to you on that in a moment, once I've analyzed the results.
Well, congratulations on getting the Mark II prototype functional, Doctor. Now, just hand it over, and we'll be on our way.
If you're ever in a hot situation that requires social finesse and adaptive intelligence, pop a Mentat and eat a meeting people pamphlet.
My request is perfectly reasonable. Give us the Stealth Boy specs, and there will be no need for us to splatter the room with your insides.
Did you think about the consequences of your actions?
No, I didn't. Not until now, anyway. Very well, Schumann. You've made your point, and I withdraw my request.
Have you seen that tower on the strip all lit up? You can see it for miles.
All things considered, pretty fucking hefty small talk.
I'm intrigued, so I'll go to this reunion. I'll be handing things over to Calamity, so talk to her if anything comes up. Oh, you'll need my word from the passphrase to get into the bunker. Friends. Don't forget it.
That's the catch. Each remnant has a code word. You need all 5 for the passphrase that'll unlock the remnant's bunker.
Dear.
Old. Friends.
Remember.
Navarro.
We trek further into the mountains and take a moment of silence for newer Fallout games that don't have cool stuff like this. Now stop! I gotta break the flow of the video, keep you on your toes. Algorithmically, it'll be my rise to power. You know what shouldn't rise to power though? My processor. Unbeknownst to me, it has been for a very long time. Imagine the despair of being 4 months into producing the most ambitious project of your life. Then your editing software gets stuck on a cursed frame. You hear a loud noise, and at that very moment, your PC completely bricks itself. You try to fix the problem, but you can't. The blue screen is in the way. I'm not a good tech support. This took me several restless nights. As it turns out, with Intel's deceptive PLL extreme overvoltage setting. My processor has been sporadically overclocking itself to meet any demand I present it with, from compositional software to lossless AVI recordings of unoptimized video games, to literally any time I had 17 Chrome tabs open in the last 6 years. On one hand, this is the hardest working 4770K on the planet. On the other hand, damn, I don't know how to use a fucking computer. Bossman does though, so he types in, "Dear old friends, remember Navarro," granting access to the Remnants bunker. What goes down here is very simple. We make an oath to side with the NCR for the second battle at Hoover Dam. Marino's being a bitch about it.
I didn't come all the way out here just so we could save the fucking NCR. I'm out.
It's a good thing we spec'd into Sociopath. If you know who you're talking to, what they want, and why they want it, you can manipulate them to do what you want. They'll even think that they came up with it. Fallout really is just about manipulating people to get what you want. In all my time with Gannon, I've been giving him moral guidance. You see, he's torn between two worlds. Does he hold on to the past and fight in the war to atone for his father's sins? Or can he manage to let go of the past, to pursue a virtuous life with the followers? Based on my answers to his questions, he'll do one or the other. At face value, one could assume me a righteous man when seeing me push Gannon towards a life of medical care, education, non-military research, and agricultural instruction. But do you take me for a dim-witted, kind-hearted hippie? Gannon dodging the draft is not my perfect world. It's a compromise that I'm willing to make, purely because now he has no use for the Gannon family Tesla armor. Now if I said damage threshold 32, weight medium, energy weapons plus 10, radiation resistance plus 25, and you didn't just bust a nut all over your Razer mouse and your mechanical keyboard, it's a telltale sign that you haven't really understood this game. If you ask a list on Google, Remnant Suit is the best power armor, but we all know that list makers are depressed people with no direction. I don't blame them for getting it wrong, but I will certainly correct it. Circumstantially, Remnant's armor can be the best, as it is technically the best defensive armor in the game. Granted that you're fine with doing less damage, having to salvage other power armor to repair, and moving very slowly. Which of course you're not fine with. So you're gonna go with the best armor in the game, cause you're a real gamer, and real gamers rise up. I rest my case. Having gathered the Enclave and finished Ganon's progression, he leaves me to join the followers of the Apocalypse.
Good luck. And goodbye.
In the arms of the angel, fly away from here.
That means no NCR, no Mr. House, and no Legion.
Here we go. Of your
Sometimes you just don't know what you had until it's gone. Entering combat just isn't the same without my doctor psychotically yelling, "Here we go!" before he disintegrates anything with a pulse and render distance. You gotta see past the bullshit though. Every compromise has a silver lining. With the obligatory loot acquisition out the way, I'm free to pursue the companionship I actually desire. A woman and a dog. The ultimate setup. The perfect life. But before I could consummate the best in slot camaraderie, I had something on the agenda. Something way overdue. You see, with Ganon's Legion-specific brownie point dialogue check out the way, I now stand to gain nothing by feigning loyalty to Caesar. You could say our area of overlapping interests just dwindled into null, and Bossman does not engage in a zero-sum game. I gave him scoliosis. a fitting end for a spineless hypocrite. So I went where a man goes when he's looking to acquire a cybernetically enhanced dog. The free market. Free side. The thugs who were giving me trouble 30 levels ago decided we should box in sort of a sporadic sparring session. I'm not a bitch though, so I swing it like Klitschko. Look at the fucking control here. The form. Another contender, but can he contend the power of my legendary right hook? I'm not exactly pound for pound, but what I am is undisputed. My unofficial boxing record is off the charts, and this was before I discovered what you can achieve by leveling unarmed and melee.
All of this just works. It's not, I'm not kidding.
Anyhow, a man doesn't tread in Southern Freeside without a purpose. Mine is to seek out a true gentleman's club, the School of Impersonation. This place is run by a gang of Elvis impersonators who call themselves the Kings, named after the gang leader, King. As the situation alludes, you guessed it, also an Elvis impersonator.
Look, Rexy, someone new's come to see us. Poor boy. He hasn't been feeling well lately. I'm the King. What can I do for you?
I might be Bossman, but this guy's a boss, man.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
To gain his trust, I started doing his dirty work. My first job was to investigate a bodyguard that might have gone rogue.
If you need to cross Freeside, no one will keep you safer than I will.
Oris has had a suspicious boom in his personal protection services, so naturally I hire him to protect me. He has no idea what he's accidentally walking into here. I have a nuclear reactor on my back. We get assaulted by thugs, and Oris the hero naturally saves the day.
Gotcha. Thought you could ambush us, huh?
Except, I count 4 dead thugs, boss man.
Gotcha. Thought you could ambush us, huh?
I count 3 shots, Oris.
Noticed that, did you? I keenly aimed one of the shots through some soft tissue of one of them to hit the man behind him.
Naturally, so you wouldn't mind if I medically examined the bodies to find that they are in fact humans pretending to be knocked out. It wouldn't be a problem if I layeth my satchel charge, would it? I mean, I believe you, Oris. There's nothing I would hate more than for my trust in you to have been misplaced. But I just have to make sure you're not lying to me.
Over here!
I think that about settles it. Go rat on him.
Okay then. I'll have some guys pull him off the street when no one's looking.
The second job was a tad more complicated. It was the beginning of a substantial conflict with the NCR. A long mission. Very boring. I don't want to describe it to you at all. Not even a little bit. So we're gonna supercut through it at Mach 5 speed.
Hey Lou, we gotta go.
And instead I'll show you a Freeside side quest, which is ultimately much more interesting. Cleaning up the streets. You see, some of the people here, they're free. Like, really free. They're so free that you wouldn't want to be that free. You don't want that amount. You want an adequate amount of freedom. They're too free. What I'm saying is that they're alcoholics and drug addicts. Cause there's this scum cunt of a bastard who's been getting them hooked on his shit.
Yeah, man. Those cats are out of their domes addicted to my shit. They can't get enough. Pretty hilarious to watch. Those fools are from NCR. I love seeing those squatters in agony.
He justifies his actions because they're NCR. But here's where his argument falls apart. These men might have been NCR at some point, but when you're a Freeside junkie, that's all you are. I can see they bear no flag, for they belong to the most unanimous faction. The streets. That's the difference between you and your customers. They can be saved, but as a practicing doctor, I've evaluated that you can't be saved. Real quick, had I given him ample time to defend himself, this is how he would have done it.
Help!
Oh shit, I forgot all about the suffering addicts. That was like the whole thing.
Why stop? I feel great.
Drop drinking? I've been drinking for a straight month.
This is gonna be harder than I anticipated, but with just a smear of social engineering.
Oh, Julie, I've really screwed things up.
I dodge having to provide these poor fellas with the perfect solution that modern medicine provides, because I need it.
I think you're right. I've been through worse.
They'll have to quell their withdrawals in support from friends and family. And time skip back to the real story quest. I also completed the King's Gang initiation quest line. I'm great at voice lines, which finally earned me a favor from the king.
Maybe it's time for a little more talking and a little less fighting.
I'd actually misunderstood this part of the game. Rex is not one of the favors. I could have just asked for the dog and he would have given it to me, no problem.
Rex, this is your new master. Protect him.
Which leaves me with a favor from this fine gentleman. Since I'm not in the market for a fake passport, I decide to join their eccentric society. I get a king's outfit and a free haircut from Sergio.
Ah, you returned to me a king yourself. It would be an honor for me to do your hair.
That's right. Bossman gets a fresh cut. You know, this Hispanic punk rocker is in dire need of a do-over. We gotta get some flair, some zest, a bit of graceful pom-pom, an eccentric splash of funk, a tad of la croix, a little bit of the bubbly. Yes, my character finally looks how I feel. Oh yeah, right. My dog is brain damaged, and that's just not gonna cut it. I seek out consultation from Dr. Henry.
It's neural degradation.
He's absolutely willing to do brain replacement surgery, but for the procedure to induce sentience, I'm gonna need a secondary dog brain. I could acquire one legally, but I'd rather go renegade and carve out the rotting brain of a legion mongrel. You talk about brain damage, this thing's been dead for 2 days.
If you want me to transplant this brain into Rex, he'll become more durable.
All right, more health, less strokes, and 0 consequences. Coincidentally, the opposite of my New Year's resolution. Now remember when I blew up 20 paladins of the Brotherhood in cold blood? Not canon at all, that shit was fake news. You see, the 4 biggest factions all have a secret weapons bunker. The Brotherhood of Steel safe house? Ooh, this is the juicy one. A Tesla cannon, a Gatling laser, and free repairs for all my most powerful armor and weapons. I made sure to test out these weapons on the Crimson Caravan Company. My findings are that they work just as they should, and there's no real problems at all with them. They're just great all around. Now hold up, wait a minute. Rewind and put a little love in it. I said a dog and a woman, because you can have 2 companions, one humanoid and one non-humanoid. Veronica, as I have mentioned on multiple occasions, is the best girl in the game. She also actually doubles down as the best follower in the game, and as a triple whammy, she's a lesbian. So you know it's all platonic. Let me whack you through my 4-stage progression to real gamer shit. You get her as a follower. It quickly becomes apparent that she has a proclivity for ballistic fist weapons. You hand her a great power fist, and she'll turn your opposition into a great power bottom. Then eventually, as you do with women, you listen to what they're saying to you.
I want a dress.
And it becomes apparent that she keeps asking me for a dress. After hearing this request a good handful of times...
Got something good for me? Something that's eye-catching, but still stylish, sexy, something elegant and classy, you know? Is it a dress?
I actually felt bad. I mean, damn, she really wants that fucking dress. So, when invading the Sierra Madre Casino Executive Suites in the Dead Money expansion, which sucks shit, I happen to come upon a dress, and a beautiful one at that. With haste, I smack it in her inventory, and nothing happens. You see, there's a fatal design flaw which makes the game entirely unplayable. Without a bit of tinkering, you actually can't progress past this point. You see, her robes have a DT of 6. She'll automatically wear the highest damage threshold piece of equipment available, and you can't take her robes off. Ooh. No matter how many fucking dresses you throw at her, she's gonna keep asking you for that damn dress for the rest of the game. Luckily, it's a video game, and I can play it however I want. Of course there's a mod for this. Finally, I can fulfill her request.
For me? Do you mean it? No, it's too much. Well, okay, but it's too much. Oh, it's perfect. Thank you. I wish I had something to give you. Wait, what about punching? That's the gift that keeps on giving.
Scribe counter lets you block while punching. I'm not exaggerating when I say it's the most overpowered perk in the game. But then, you play for a good many hours, and eventually get tired of looking at the dress. You might even start to consider other options. Alright, basically, I'm not proud of this, alright, but so here's what happened. I had taken a perk called Mysterious Stranger. Allegedly, here and there, he'll pop up in the middle of VATS to assist me. I'd had the perk for about 40 minutes without it happening. In fact, I'd forgotten all about it. I was about to save and quit for the day. But Before closing the game, I went to New Vegas. I didn't want to ruin my reputation, so I was only firing my sniper LMG at the hooker, hypothetically. Not really cannon on my save file, just to close the game afterwards, you know? When something magical happened. So how this game works is because he shot her, I am beyond any reasonable doubt an innocent bystander. I go loot the corpse, and that is when I accidentally stumbled upon the chained up prostitute outfit. And you can see where I'm going with this. Now, 14-year-old me would have absolutely rocked this for the rest of the playthrough. No questions. But I have a confession to make. I'm not based. I'm cringe. I couldn't even stand it for 10 minutes before I had to replace it with the Scorched Sierra power armor and the superheated Saturnine fist. Then to balance things out, I wore the outfit for a while. And I gotta say, I make this thing look good. Like I said 462 words ago, my 4-stage progression to real gamer shit. That's the thing about a legendary RPG. It's not just intensely satisfying. A legendary RPG fucking builds you up as a person. I can say beyond any shadow of a doubt, this is the best single-player game I've played in my entire life. And the only reason it's not the best multiplayer game is because it has no multiplayer. But before I get ahead of myself, I first misled myself. You see, with a World Wide Web search engine and my newfound ability to place markers on the map, I'm navigating and operating with streamlined efficiency. But even I wasn't ready for what Vault 11 had in store. No question. Coolest door in the game. They're doing the whole thing. I think it's a mating dance. I haven't seen this anywhere else in the game. Oh. Well. Okay. Alright, Veronica, dope. And what is this place anyways? Well, another ode to the deadliest combination. Say it with me. Social experiments and technology. Ow! Who wouldn't want to live locked up underground in an environment designed to induce obedience to authority figures and violate your morals? They told these people that each year one person has to go in the sacrificial kill chamber, or they would all contribute to the greater good.
Please proceed to the light. The light is calming and puts your mind at ease. Go to the light.
The wacky gimmick is that if they were to refuse, they'd get a message praising them for being a shining example for humanity. The vault doors would immediately unlock and they'd be free to go live a worthy life. Of course, that's not what happened. Every year, they held sort of a reverse election, where you could vote on who you wanted slaughtered. They even had propaganda posters. There's this one that accuses Haley of being an adulterer and a communist sympathizer. But my absolute favorite is still, I hate Nate. Such a daring, yet simple message. By the time the populace refused to continue the sacrificial ritual, there were only 5 left. The situation at the front door is actually